Hey kids, towards the end of the last class, we studied about decomposers and transformers. Let us recap about them. Decomposers are those organisms that act upon the dead bodies of producers and consumers and break down the complex organic compounds into simple forms. And transformers, on the other hand, they disintegrate the simple compounds into inorganic compounds which can be then reused by the plants. So in today's class, let us study about the importance of decomposers and transformers. Why decomposers and transformers are important. Okay, so importance of decomposers and transformers. Transformers. Alright. So the first importance is namai the decomposers. That is, so what do? They decompose the dead bodies of plants and animals. So plants are the producers and animals are the consumers. So they decompose the dead bodies of plants and animals. So they act as the cleansing agents of the environment. Cleansing agents of the environment. What are cleansing agents? They clean up the environment. Okay, so decompose garera hamro environment license, they clean it up. So they are the cleansing agents of the environment. Second importance is that they help in recycling of materials. Okay, help in recycling of materials. So they play a vital role. They play a vital role in biogeochemical cycle or nutrient cycle. Or nutrient cycle. So they play a very important role. Okay, vital means important. So they play a very important role in this cycle. Okay, third is they maintain the fertility of the soil. Okay, they maintain the fertility of the soil. And lastly, if there would have been no decomposers on earth, then our earth would just be a heap of dead organisms. Okay, so if there were no decomposers, our earth would have been a heap of dead organisms. किनभने जति पनि organisms मरेको हुन्छ त्यो त अर्थमै थुप्रिन्छ नि त if there were no decomposers, and then the earth would be just a mass of dead bodies only. Okay, so त्यो कारणले गर्दा decomposers are very, very important in an ecosystem. Okay, so thus in an ecosystem we can see that the living organisms and the non-living things, they interact to maintain the ecosystem. Now ecosystem can exist anywhere. It can exist in water bodies or in aquatic systems, or it can also exist in land. Some of the ecosystem that are found in water bodies may be ponds, lakes, rivers, oceans. यो जति पनि water bodies मा छ त्यहाँ पनि ecosystem हुन्छ. Land masses मा जस्तो deserts मा भयो, forests मा भयो, grasslands मा भयो, you'll find ecosystem. So let us study about one ecosystem that is present in the aquatic bodies or in the water bodies. Okay, yanira why I am taking one example of ecosystem, you can say that I'm taking an example of ecosystem kina bhandakiri whatever we've learned about ecosystem we'll revise it through this, ani arko kura chai you will understand through this example you'll understand what is ecosystem. Okay, so tesko lagi chai we'll take one ecosystem that exists in the in aquatic world, that is the pond. Okay, so pond as an ecosystem. अघि मैले भनेको थिएँ नि इकोसिस्टम चाहिँ it can exist in water bodies and it can also exist in the land. So we are talking about one such ecosystem that exists in the water bodies. Now as discussed in the previous class, you might remember that ecosystem has two components. दुईटा components हुन्छ के हुँदैन ecosystem मा. What are those two components? A biotic component and biotic component. So a biotic component refers to the non-living components and biotic components refers to the living components. So about abiotic components say what are the abiotic components that are present in pond bhandakiri. So abiotic component, our ecosystem ho pond, so that means it will have both abiotic component and it will have biotic component. So let us talk about the abiotic component that is present in the ecosystem. Okay, so obviously water, since we are talking about pond, so there is water, then that there can be temperature of water, right? Then light, sunlight auncha. Then comes pH, right? We've already studied about pH in detail, right? So pH bhayalyo. Then there can be minerals in water. There can be dissolved gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide can be dissolved in water. So dissolved gases, and there can be organic and inorganic compounds. Okay. So these are the abiotic components that are present in the ecosystem. Now let us talk about the biotic component that is present in the pond. Okay. Now biotic component ma, you know that biotic refers to living organisms, right? So living organisms pani there are different kinds of living organisms, the producers, consumers, right? So let us see what are the producers that are found in ecosystem. Producers of the pond, right? Producers, you know. So first we'll talk about the producers. Our producers, they produce food. So what are the producers in pond भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ plants हुन्छ, किनभने pond भित्र पनि plants हुन्छ. त्यो plants can be floating. Floating means माथि माथि तरिने plant हुन्छ. कोही चाहिँ rooted plants हुन्छ, that means that can be found deep inside the pond. Okay, rooted plants, as well as phytoplanktons, okay, phytoplanktons, I think in the last class also I told you these are microscopic plants. Phytoplanktons are microscopic plants, so we can also call them as marine algae. These are the microscopic algae that are found inside any aquatic system. Okay, so यस्तो पाराले producers यो भयो. अब आउँछ consumers. You know that second type of biotic components are the consumers. Now consumers are the animals that feed on other organisms. Animals that feed on other organisms. Again, consumers are of various types, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. We've studied about them. So first let us talk about the primary consumers. Primary consumers, those are herbivores पनि भन्छ नि हामी है. So primary consumers that is present inside this ecosystem pond चाहिँ कुन चाहिँ हो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ zooplanktons. Okay, zooplanktons. अब जसरी microscopic plants huncha pond ma, there are microscopic animals also. Okay, microscopic animals also. So these are known as zooplanktons. So these zooplanktons will feed upon this phytoplankton. So यसलाई चाहिँ हामी भन्छौँ primary consumers. Example of zooplankton can be amoeba, it can be paramecium, etc. Okay. Now next comes the secondary consumer. After primary comes the secondary consumer. So secondary consumer के हुन सक्छ pond मा भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ अब secondary consumer you know that they feed on this primary consumer. हेर्नुस् है primary consumer feeds on the producers. है फेरि secondary consumer feeds on primary consumers. Tertiary consumer will feed on secondary consumer. So यस्तो पाराले हुन्छ. Now the secondary consumers that are present inside the pond can be small fishes and frogs. So your small fishes or frogs will feed upon this zooplankton. Alright, and then comes the tertiary consumer. Tertiary consumers can be large fishes. Right? You small fishes like खाने large fishes हुन्छ, frogs like खाने large fishes हुन सक्छ. And then there can be water birds also. Water birds भनेको जस्तो birdsहरु तपाईले देख्नु भएको छ नि है, if you have watched TV or Discovery Channel हरुतिर त्यो खोलामाथि चाहिँ you will find different kinds of birds. They will feed upon the fishes, small fishes. They hunt for the fishes over there. So those are water birds. जस्तो crane भन्छ, stork भन्छ. All these are water birds. Okay. So these form the tertiary consumers. Then lastly के आउँछ? Lastly comes the decomposers. These are also biotic components. किनभने decomposers पनि living organisms नै हुन्छ. So always decomposers are bacteria and fungi. Okay, so this is how inside a pond you will find an ecosystem, and those ecosystem has all the components. Okay, so यस्तो पाराले ecosystem को यो चाहिँ एउटा example हो. So this example can be applied to desert also. Desert मा पनि यस्तै खालको ecosystem हुन्छ, forests मा हुन्छ. Okay, so त्यो desert forest को ecosystem चाहिँ land mass को ecosystem हो. यो चाहिँ water को ecosystem हो. Alright, now I hope you are clear with this. Now let us move on to another subtopic in your syllabus, that is trophic level. Okay, let us study about trophic level. So trophic level पनि ecosystem कै कुरा आउँछ यसमा पनि. So हेरौँ what is trophic level. This ink is really stubborn. It refuses to erase easily. So I am applying all the force that I can to erase this. So it's taking a bit of a time. Alright. So okay. Now let us talk about the trophic level. Trophic level. So this, as I told you earlier, it exists in an ecosystem. So in an ecosystem, let us write down the definition. System, each group of biotic component, okay, biotic component is the trophic level. Say एउटा ecosystem ma there is biotic component. We are not taking into consideration the abiotic part. Okay, abiotic non living को कुरै छैन यहाँ. Trophic level मा चाहिँ living organisms मात्रै आउँछ अनि त्यो living organisms पनि each group of that biotic component will form one trophic level. That means biotic components हरु के हुन्छ ecosystem मा भन्दा producers, consumers, decomposers हुन्छ के हुँदैन. So all these will form different trophic levels. Okay, so let us start. Always कुनै पनि एउटा ecosystem मा it always starts with producers. Okay, so producers सँग start हुन्छ. So what are producers? The green plants. Okay, the green plants form the base on which the food chain is built. We'll study what is food chain later on. So हेर्नुहोस् यहाँनिर प्लान्ट्सहरू ग्रीन प्लान्ट्सहरू जहिले पनि दे फर्म द बेस किनभने जहिले पनि यु नो द्याट प्रोड्युसर्स हुन्छ त्यहाँदेखि त्यसलाई खाने चाहिँ कन्ज्युमर हुन्छ नि त सो फर्स्ट बेस चाहिँ कसले फर्म गर्छ भन्दा चाहिँ ग्रीन प्लान्ट्सले फर्म गर्छ एन्ड दे आर नोन एज द प्रोड्युसर्स दे आर कल्ड प्रोड्युसर्स सो दे फर्म द फर्स्ट ट्रफिक लेभल ओके सो जहिले पनि फर्स्ट ट्रफिक लेभल चाहिँ को हुँदो रहेछ फर्स्ट ट्रफिक लेभल कसले अक्युपाई गर्छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ that is occupied by the producers okay they constitute the first trophic level the first trophic level so first trophic level like we can write it in short form that is we'll write it as T1 okay so this is the first trophic level who forms the first trophic level the producers okay then next मा आउँछ अब producers माथि feed गर्ने consumers will form the next trophic level consumer मा पनि there are various types of consumers so second मा कुन चाहिँ आउँछ होला भन्नुस् त after producers कुन चाहिँ आउँछ जहिले पनि always there are primary consumers are also known as herbivores okay so second मा आउँछ primary consumers feed on whom feed on producers primary consumers they feed on producers and they form and they are called the first order consumers okay यिनीहरुलाई चाहिँ के भन्छ first order consumers yes they are consumer तर कस्तो order को consumer भन्दा first order को consumers so त्यसलाई चाहिँ short form मा we can write it as C1 first order consumer okay and first order consumer form the second trophic level and constitute the second trophic level बुझ्नु हुँदैछ second trophic level so को चाहिँ आउँदो रहेछ second trophic level मा भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ the primary consumers or the first order consumers they form the second trophic level okay त्यहाँदेखि आउँछ को आउँछ होला secondary consumers because they feed on primary consumers हैन secondary consumers are also known as carnivores so secondary consumers are the second order consumers okay second order consumers that is written as C2 and form the third trophic level and form the third trophic level okay likewise secondary consumers ले third trophic level भयो so likewise tertiary consumer will form the tertiary consumers are the third order किनभने first order primary भइहाल्यो second order secondary भइहाल्यो tertiary will be the third order consumers and they will be written as a C3 and they form the fourth trophic level okay so यस्तो पाराले त्यस्तै गरी top consumer will be the fourth order consumers and they will be forming the fifth trophic level so यस्तो पाराले हेर्नुस् त every trophic level मा every trophic level चाहिँ it constitutes of biotic component first trophic level मा producers हुन्छ second trophic level मा primary consumers or the herbivores third trophic level मा there will be secondary consumers or carnivores fourth trophic level मा there will be tertiary consumers fifth trophic level मा there will be top consumers so in this way trophic levels is built okay so let me draw the diagram so that it will be easier for you to understand trophic level को diagram चाहिँ it is like a pyramid okay so pyramid जस्तो बनाउनु पर्छ so diagram of the trophic level is like a pyramid. So pyramid huncha. So at the base of the pyramid is the producers or the green plants. So यो चाहिँ base मा भयो producers. They are represented by the letter P. हैन? So यो चाहिँ कति भयो? First trophic level. Alright. त्यसै गरी आउँछ primary consumer. Primary consumer are known as consumers of the first order. So C1, they form the second trophic level. Okay, त्यसै गरी secondary consumer. हैन? They form third trophic level. They are consumers of second order. त्यसै गरी tertiary consumer. Okay, so they form the fourth trophic level. They are the third order consumers. हैन? Last मा आउँछ top consumer. They are the fifth trophic level and they form the fourth order of consumers. So trophic level मा तपाईले हेर्नु भयो भने every step is occupied by biotic component. Okay, अब आउँछ food chain. Let us now study about food chain. So food chain ko पहिला let us write down the definition of food chain. What do you understand by food chain? I think you have a slight idea about food chain. A food chain is a linear energy sequence of trophic level that starts with a species which eats no other species, okay, and ends with a species that is eaten by no other species. Definition मा के भन्दैछ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ food chain is a linear energy sequence. Linear भनेको एउटा लाइन मा हुन्छ है, अनि त्यहाँनिर चाहिँ it is a linear energy sequence of trophic levels. भनेपछि trophic levels भनेपछि पहिला producers, त्यहाँदेखि आउँछ primary consumer, then secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. So त्यसरी चाहिँ एउटा linear energy sequence हो. So यो linear energy sequence मा कसरी स्टार्ट हुन्छ रे भन्दा चाहिँ it starts with a species that eats no other species. भनेपछि यस्तो खालके स्पीसीज बाट सुरु हुन्छ यो फुड चेन चाहिँ स्टार्टिङ मा जहिले पनि जसले चाहिँ अरु कसैलाई खादैन. ओके, दैट मीन्स अरु कसैलाई नखानेको छ प्रोड्युसर्स छ. So always in a food chain the starting member is the producer. Okay, त्यहाँदेखि producer बाट स्टार्ट हुन्छ. एन्ड केमा हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ that is not eaten by any other species. त्यसलाई खाने अरु कोही छैन, त्योबाट चाहिँ एन्ड हुन्छ. ओके, स्टार्ट केबाट हुन्छ? प्रोड्युसर्स बाट स्टार्ट हुन्छ. एन्ड हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ that ends in a species which is not eaten by any other species. Okay, so this is food chain. Now there are two important aspects in a food chain. Okay, two important aspects in a food chain are. अब तपाईले एउटा कुरा यहाँ फुड चेन को विषयमा चाहिँ के थाहा हुनुपर्छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ एउटा त थाहा हुनु पर्यो यो लिनियर सिक्वेन्स हो जहाँनिर चाहिँ प्रोड्युसरबाट स्टार्ट हुन्छ एन्ड विथ द स्पीसीज दैट इट्स नो अदर स्पीसीज. ओके, नाउ अर्को कुरा चाहिँ जब when something is eaten by something के भएको भन्दाखेरि actually energy is flowing inside that ecosystem. Okay, inside that food chain. So दुईटा important aspects in a food chain चाहिँ के छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ one aspect is that first is flow of energy. There is flow of energy going on किनभने एउटाले अर्कोलाई खानुको मतलब चाहिँ food हो, foodबाट हामीले energy पाउँछ. So there is flow of energy going on and the flow of energy is unidirectional. Uni भनेको के हो भन्नुस् त? One भनेको. So it takes place only in one direction, that is from the producers to the consumers. Okay, so यस्तो पाराले चाहिँ flow of energy in a food chain is unidirectional. That means it moves in one direction only. अनि त्यो चाहिँ producers to the consumers. किनभने तपाईलाई याद छ producers चाहिँ they trap the energy of the sun. हैन? अनि त्यहाँ फर्स्ट एनर्जी त उनीहरुकोमा आउँछ नि त. त्यहाँदेखि उनीहरुलाई खादै गएपछि चाहिँ त्यो एनर्जी it will get transferred to the consumers. Alright? Now next important aspect is that when there is transfer of energy, during transfer of energy, some amount of energy is lost. Energy is lost at every trophic level. हेर्नुस् त यो कुरा चाहिँ के हो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ जब एनर्जी ट्रान्सफर हुँदै गरेको हुन्छ फुड चेनमा त्यति बेला चाहिँ व्हाट इज ह्यापनिङ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ some amount of energy is getting lost. Not all the energy is being transferred. है जस्तो प्रोड्युसरले कन्ज्युमरमा अब प्रोड्युसर छ प्रोड्युसरले समको एनर्जी ट्र्याप गरेर उसकोमा छ त्यो एनर्जी. Now when the consumers they feed on the producers, that energy will be transferred to the consumer, है तर not 100% of the energy will be transferred. Some amount of energy will be lost. Only कम्ती एनर्जी मात्रै it will be transferred to the consumer. Okay, so that means अब कन्ज्युमरमा प्राइमेरी कन्ज्युमरमा अलिक कम्ती एनर्जी ट्रान्सफर भयो. अब प्राइमेरी कन्ज्युमरलाई सेकेन्डरी कन्ज्युमरले खाँदाखेरि अझै कम्ती ट्रान्सफर भयो. अन्त टर्सरी कन्ज्युमरकोमा पुग्दा त अझै कम्ती, टप कन्ज्युमरकोमा त अलिकति मात्रै एनर्जी पुग्छ. बिकज some amount of energy is lost at every trophic level. Okay, that means it means that maximum energy is infused in the producers. Okay, it means that maximum amount of energy is infused in the consumers, in the producers, right? Maximum energy say producers ma aucha, then it goes on decreasing, as it transfers to various consumers. So जब यो consumer मा transfer हुन्छ त्यो decrease हुँदै जान्छ. Okay, so these are two very important aspects of a food chain. Okay, now let us study about the examples. Food chain मा example हेरौँ. Now example हेर्दाखेरि के हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ a food chain can have different levels of trophic levels. एउटा food chain मा त्यहाँनिर डिफरेंट ट्रफिक लेभल्स हुनु सक्छ. कोही बेला दुईटा ट्रफिक लेभल हुन्छ, कोही बेला तीनटा हुन सक्छ, कोही बेला चारटा हुन सक्छ. ओके, सो इट क्यान हैव डिफरेंट ट्रफिक लेभल्स, बट यू हैव टु कीप इन माइंड दैट द फूड चेन always begins with a producer. Okay, food chain चाहिँ अघि हामीले definition मा पनि लेखेको छ नि त. It starts with a species that eats no other species. So a species that eats no other species is the producers. Okay, so it will always start with a producer. So in a food chain, in different habitats मा ल, different habitats भनेको different जग्गामा जस्तो aquatic मा हुन सक्छ या त it can be in land habitat, हैन. So different habitats मा food chain can have different number of trophic levels. Okay, different number of trophic levels. But the food chain always starts with a producer. But it always starts or begins with a producer. So let us study about the different examples, right, of food chain. So first ma हामी पढौं two step food chain. Two step food chain भनेपछि चाहिँ यो कतिवटा trophic levels हुन्छ. It will have two trophic levels. Okay, it may be present in forest ecosystem. Okay, forest मा हुन सक्छ. त्यहाँदेखिको it has two trophic levels. दुईटा मात्रै trophic level हुन्छ. Okay, अब त्यसमा पनि first starts with producers. So this is one example of duita trophic level. This is trophic level 1, trophic level 2. So हेर्नुस् न, so यस्तो खालके food chain लाई चाहिँ हामी भन्छौं two step food chain. Okay, now 3 steps को I'll do it here itself. No? So again, it can be present in the forest. It may be present in the forest. Okay, number 2 मा आउँछ 3 steps. 3 steps food chain. Okay, it may be present in the forest. It has 3 trophic levels. Okay, 3 trophic level मा example हेर्नुस्, plant, deer and tiger. हेर्नुस् त, so plant feeds on, deer feeds on plant and then tiger feeds on deer. So यस्तोलाई चाहिँ हामी भन्छौं 3 step trophic level. This is T1, T2 and T3. So यो चाहिँ भयो 3 steps food chain. अब आउनु सक्छ 4 steps food chain. Okay, here I'll do it here itself. So number 3 will be 4 steps food chain. Okay, 4 steps food chain. It may occur in the forest. Forest. So it has how many steps? 4. How many trophic levels? 4 trophic levels again. Okay, so example ma आउनु सक्छ. Let us say grass मा feed गर्छ rabbit. Grass is eaten by rabbit, हैन, and the rabbit is eaten by, let us say, fox is eaten by tiger. So 4 steps trophic levels. It can also occur, may also occur in aquatic system. जस्तो aquatic ecosystem हेरौँ है त. Let us say aquatic plants are there. So aquatic plants are eaten by mollusks. Mollusks ले eat गर्छ. Mollusks लाई it is eaten by fishes. हैन, त्यहाँदेखि fishes are eaten by, let us say, crocodile. So हेर्नुस् त 4 steps food chain भयो कि भएन. Okay, so mollusks भनेको चाहिँ हामी भन्छ oyster भनेको त्यो मोतीको दाना निस्किने एउटा हुन्छ नि अर्गानिजम एक्वाटिकमा, त्यो molluskमा आउँछ. अर्को आउँछ octopus. Okay, so these are mollusks. So these will feed on these aquatic plants and उसलाई फेरि कसले खान्छ, फिशले खान्छ, फिशलाई फेरि कसले खान्छ, क्रोकोडाइलले खान्छ. So this is 4 step food chain. And finally we'll talk about the 5 step food chain. Okay, so 5 step food chain can occur in a forest. Okay, so आउँछ अब 4 मा 5 steps food chain. Okay, can occur in a forest. Okay, so it has 5 trophic levels. जति steps छ त्यति नै trophic levels हुन्छ. Okay, 5 trophic levels. So first one, let us say grass. Grass like खाने छ insects like the grasshoppers, हैन? So grasshopper like खाने छ frog. Frog like खाने छ snake. Snake like खाने छ hawk. So see, there are how many trophic levels? 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So this is 5 chain or 5 steps food chain. Okay, so तपाईले एउटा कुरा, one thing you have to remember is that 5 step भन्दा बेसी food chain मा हुँदैन steps. किन भन्दाखेरि अघि हामीले भन्दैछ नि एनर्जी फ्लो गर्दाखेरि the energy goes on decreasing. Okay, energy goes on decreasing. त्यही कारणले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ लास्ट को मा चाहिँ कम्ती एनर्जी मात्रै पुग्छ यसमा है 5 स्टेप मा. त्यहाँदेखि उता पुग्यो भने त एनर्जी निल हुन्छ नि त, जीरो हुन्छ. त्यो कारणले गर्दाखेरि 5 स्टेप्स भन्दा ज्यादा कहिले पनि फुड चेन मा ट्रफिक लेभल्स हुँदैन. ओके, 5 maximum 5 steps भएको. Okay, otherwise there will be 3 step, 2 step or 4 steps food chain. All right, so this is all about food chain. Now let us move on to the last subtopic of the day, that is food web. Okay, okay, now let us talk about food web. All right, food web. Now in natural ecosystems, मैले अघि भने फुड चेनहरु चाहिँ यस्तो लिनियर सिक्वेन्समा हुन्छ, एउटा लाइनमा हुन्छ. एउटा अर्गानिजमले अर्को अर्गानिजमलाई यसरी लाइनमा खान्छ भने नि त फुड चेनमा है. But naturally it never occurs like that. Okay, the food chain never operates as an isolated sequence, but rather it is interconnected to form a web-like pattern, and that is known as food web. Okay, so in natural ecosystem, nature ma पढेको जस्तो चाहिँ हुँदैन. Okay, in natural ecosystem the food chain never operates as an isolated sequence, but is interconnected with one another to form a web-like pattern. Okay, to form a web-like pattern called food web. Web-like नै बनाउँछ नि त प्याटर्न. वेब भनेको बुझ्नुहुन्छ, जाली, माकुराको जालीलाई चाहिँ वेब भनिन्छ. सो त्यस्तो खालके web-like pattern बनाउँछ, and that is known as food web. Let me give you an example. Okay, now there is grass. Now grass is eaten by so that clearer for you. So grass, okay, grass is eaten by grasshopper. Okay, then there is grain. Grain is eaten by, let us say, mouse. मुसाले खान्छ है. अब यो दुईटैलाई फेरि कसले खान्छ? उल्लुले खान्छ है. अब फेरि ग्रास खाने अर्को एउटा अर्गानिजम पनि छ, ऱ्याबिट. ओके, ऱ्याबिटले फेरि के पनि खान्छ भन्दाखेरि इट अल्सो इट्स क्यारट. अलराइट, अब त्यहाँदेखिको फेरि let me draw this slightly diagonal so that you will understand. So this mouse is eaten by owl, this grasshopper is also eaten by owl. अनि त्यहाँदेखि ग्रासहप्परलाई फेरि कसले पनि खान्छ भन्दा चाहिँ बर्ड्सले पनि खान्छ. अलराइट, सो बर्ड्सले पनि खान्छ. अब यो ऱ्याबिटलाई कसले खान्छ? फक्सले खान्छ. फेरि यो फक्सले बर्ड्स पनि खान्छ. अलराइट, सो यस्तो पाराले चाहिँ नेचरमा चाहिँ मैले त यो एउटा सानो इक्जाम्पल मात्रै दिएको तपाईँलाई, अझै कम्प्लिकेटेड पनि हुन्छ. ओके, सो दिस इज हाउ इन द नेचर one organism eats another organism, and this complex kind of web-like structure is formed, and that is known as the food web. Okay, so यहाँनिर चाहिँ सिम्पल खाली ग्रासले ग्रासहपर खायो, ग्रासहपरले बर्ड्स, यो एउटा लिनियर सिक्वेन्स मात्रै भएन नि त. ओके, यहाँनिर त ग्रासहपरले ग्रासलाई खाँदैछ, ऱ्याबिटले पनि खाइरहेको छ हैन. सो यस्तो पाराले one organism is eating the other organism, on top of that another organism is there, so it is forming a web like structure, and this web like structure occurs in the natural ecosystem, and that is known as food web. Okay, I hope you're clear with this. Let us wind up today's class here.